Which recipes?
You know, $2.
Hmm?
$2. Minus. Venus now stew turkey stroganoff. So turkey stroganoff. They are in folders, lamb and lamb folder and a beef folder, and there's a filter folder.
another portion.
Hello? Wait, please remove this phone from tomato. I do not want to do that. Can I have tomato paste? Okay. Thank you. Sugar. Start.
We can start now.
I think so, actually, no.
It is.
She took it upstairs. Okay.
The pan is down here. It's been cleaned up.
Alright, close your door. I'll bring you some stew when we're done.
Well, I don't want to. No, thank you, but I'll have some chips.
You may have some chips.
Shall we dish up?
Yeah.
We want. Serving size and napkins. Cup.
These are display. Yeah. These are for display.
Yeah, just. Leave that, 'cause we still have to put the,
Sour cream in.
Well. Yeah. Grab these 'cause
So half a cup of sour cream. Okay, let's put that over here. We'll start with that.
for your bay leaves.
We'll do that. We'll do that. Start. Start.
Yep.
Okay. Are you recording? Saving all that jazz?
Huh?
Saving and all that jazz?
Yeah.
Welcome to our show tonight. So tonight we're going to make two very tasty, very quick recipes. You'll excuse us if we look a little warm. It's our first 80-degree day here in the Pacific Northwest. We're all about ready to melt. So our first recipe is going to be this beautiful beef stroganoff, which we made in a slow cooker. This is something special for my grandma. It is a low sodium dish. I'm going to take out my bay leaves here. And since this is beef stroganoff, it has to have a little sour cream. And don't cheat. Full fat, full calorie, full dairy sour cream. It's the only way this one works. I'm going to stir that in till it melts. And it's just a half a cup of sour cream for this 6-serving dish. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so then we're going to take a measuring cup because portion size is important. We have 1 cup of stroganoff and 1 cup of egg noodles fresh out of the pot. And there we have our delicious slow cooker beef stroganoff. So we're starting with the end, of course, so that we can show you what it looks like. Our other dish we're making tonight is Guinness beef stew. Our Guinness lamb stew. I'm sorry. It's made with some very,
It's made with the short beef.
very tasty leg of lamb that you can get at Costco. And all of the good vegetables, the potatoes, carrots, onions, in a Guinness and beef broth sauce. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So we'll get started. Start with a glass of wine because our stroganoff has wine in it. And I always tell you, never cook with a wine you won't drink. I also tell you, you don't have to pay a lot for good wine, at least decent wine, table wine. This is $3.87 at Winco. It's a Chardonnay. This recipe calls for a dry white wine. For a dry white wine, you can use Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon, that's a very dry wine. Don't use a Riesling, those are sweet. Unless you can find a dry Riesling. Those are...
But just because it's cheap doesn't mean,
Being cheap doesn't make it bad, it doesn't make it good.
and it doesn't mean you shouldn't, or you should waste the remainder of the bottle.
It's true. Don't waste your wine. We get it cheap because sometimes we do waste our wine. We're watching our waistlines. However, 4-ounce glass of wine is 120 calories. Not bad. So, for our stroganoff, and it's cold. We need 1.5 pounds of beef. This was on sale at Safeway. It is a London broil. You can use a bottom round. You can use the stew mate they have already prepared. Winco makes packages of carne asada that is perfect for this. It's unseasoned. Then we have 1.5 teaspoons of freshly ground black pepper and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now, I substituted Mrs. Dash for my salt tonight because I'm making this for my grandma, and she's on a really restricted sodium diet. And that is why I chose this dish. This has, flip over here, .305 milligrams of sodium. And I just cut out about 20 by substituting Mrs. Dash for that 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And that's per serving. 302 calories. That does not include the noodles. A cup of egg noodles has about 200 calories. So together you've got a 500 calorie meal. Put a salad with that with some lemon juice on it. You've got an entire meal for 500 calories. Not bad. And
Does the recipe call for low sodium beef broth to begin with?
yes.
Okay.
You can get by with using oil in your water for your egg noodles instead of salt. It's not the optimum thing, but if you're really watching your sodium, do that. Okay, so also have 2 teaspoons of oil, which we're going to cook with. 3 tablespoons of flour, that's our thickener. 2 cups of onions, pretty much just one big yellow onion chopped up. If you like onions, slice them. Leave them big and chunky. We're gonna sweat them out and make them soft and grill them. Nobody around here but me likes onions, so I chop them real small so they can't pick them out.
I'll eat.
Now, we have 2 containers of beef broth here. This is a half a cup of beef broth, and this is low sodium beef broth. And look carefully, make sure it's reduced sodium and not reduced fat, because there's a difference. And then we have a quarter cup of the same beef broth here. We have a half a cup of our white wine and 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. That is apparently the secret ingredient. That was impressive. You should have seen the secret ingredient in stroganoff. And I've heard tell that there are those who like half a cup of Worcestershire. I heard a story about someone who used an entire bottle of Worcestershire. Guys, now, they do make lower sodium Worcestershire. But don't bother. It's not that big a difference. It is that big of a difference in flavor. Okay. Finally, we have 8 ounces by weight of cremini mushrooms, sliced up. Again, there's a debate in our house about whether mushrooms should be big or small. I like mushrooms. I leave them big for people who don't like them to pick out. You can make them small for people who don't like them to not find. Make them really tiny. Okay, and a couple of bay leaves. I'm going to use 3 because these are little. Oh, there's one too. I have to get some more bay leaves. Bay leaves come from my bay bush, which grows just about anywhere. More later. And they dry nicely. And they, alright. So, next thing we're going to need is our slow cooker pot, which I have pre-lined. It's my very favorite thing in the world, a slow cooker liner. This makes cleanup so easy. So then we're going to come over here. Pull out our handy dandy stainless steel pan. I'm going to get this about medium high, fairly warm. I'm going to put in 1 teaspoon of avocado oil. You guys know I like avocado oil because it doesn't turn bitter when it gets hot. Okay. And now we're just going to brown this beef. Now, you can cut this beef into thin strips like I've done. You can cut it into bite-sized stew meat chunks. You make it the way you like it. Alright, that's about half of it. I'm going to sprinkle it with half of my Mrs. Dash and pepper. And we're going to get that browning. Actually, I'm doing this wrong. The onions come first. No, they don't. Let me read. Oh my goodness, you guys. Gone insane.
It's been a day.
Yeah. Nope, for this one, the onions go last. For the next one, the onions go first. Don't let me forget that. Alright, so while we're waiting for our pan to heat up, over some of our lamb stuff. Our lamb stew has 2.5 pounds of leg of lamb that I've trimmed and cut into stew meat, bite-sized stuff. Now this has 430 calories in a cup, but that's dinner. That's all you need. That's your entire meal. Oh, our pan is hot. You can hear our sizzle. We want this to be brown, but we also want to sweat out some of those juices because we're going to use them in our final product. And we're going to do a couple of more shows pretty quickly in the future. The computer was down for a while. Couldn't see its own hard drive. It's got a new hard drive. Hopefully we'll be a lot smoother running. Easier to see, easier to hear, easier to follow. So we want this to be browned because meat doesn't usually brown in the slow cooker. It grays. So we're going to sear that a little, just a few minutes. And it's nice and thin, so we're not going to worry too much about getting it done all the way through, because it's going to cook for 4 hours. Okay, so I'll make my sister watch this. She's convinced that you just can't cook for one person, but you can if you have a freezer. This makes 6 servings. I'm going to turn and pour this meat right into my slow cooker. This particular dish freezes so nicely after it's cooked. Egg noodles freeze nicely. And you can buy some lovely things inexpensively on Amazon that will keep these for you, stacked in the freezer until you're ready to use it. And you just microwave it. Alright, there's the rest of our spices. Get that one browned up. This is one that I have prepped all the food the night before. Cut the onions and mushrooms and meat. Measured out some stuff. Usually just the broth and the wine. Thrown this together on my lunch and put it in the slow cooker and had it for dinner. If you don't have the luxury of being home at night, throw it together the night before and get a slow cooker with a timer that'll cook it for 4 hours and then keep it warm till you get home. So, we browned our meat in that same pan. Put the onion, we're going to sweat these. When I say sweat, we want these to be soft and a little bit liquidy. Onions are a very liquidy vegetable, but you have to draw it out. Oh. Oh. Interesting. Thank you. Okay. If you hadn't noticed, we have a working kitchen. Family members, children, cats walk through rather frequently. And you want to stir these. So I didn't put any more oil in than was in the beef. And I don't want them to stick. I do want them to turn the bottom of this pan brown, and you'll learn why in a minute. And they're starting to sweat. I'll give them just a minute while I open this pan here. Okay, now that they're nice and aromatic, there's my kitchen, be the most popular place on earth if there was smell-o-vision. I'm going to add a couple of fair-sized teaspoons of already chopped up garlic. Stir those together. Really don't want to overcook garlic. Because it turns bitter and rancid. Just so you can smell. Garlic. And we're going to put that in here. Right on top of everything else. Okay. Now, turn the burner down. About a medium low here. Put the wine in. Half a cup of white wine. We're going to deglaze the pan. Just by stirring. All that brown stuff that I actually wanted on the bottom of the pan. Bringing up and putting into the wine. And alcohol is good for deglazing because it pulls that stuff up. And now we want to cook this down till it's about half. So instead of half a cup of wine, we're going to have a quarter cup. And all the alcohol will cook out. In the meantime, I'm going to show you about my 2 little things full of beef broth. This is 3 tablespoons of flour. And this is a quarter of a cup of beef broth. And I'm going to make a slurry, which means I'm going to make a thickener for my sauce. And this is where you decide if you have lumps or not in your gravy. Get your lumps out here. you won't have lumps there. Alright, so this is all thick. I'm going to take this and my half cup of beef broth over to my pan. Check on my wine here. Getting there. Nearly there. I twist. Better? Oh, it's done. Okay. Part of the curse, we lost Karen too there. But while it was out, this thickened up into a beautiful sauce. A few chunks in it, a few bits of onions. That's okay. Those are going to come out in the slow cooker. Now we're going to add our Worcestershire. And we're going to stir that up. And it's going to remain pretty thick. But boy, does it smell good. Isn't that a pretty color? Okay. I am just going to pour this in here. And that's that. I now pour mushrooms on top. And I stick it in the slow cooker for 4 hours on high. And then at the end of it, you saw at the beginning, that we're going to put in a half a cup of full fat sour cream and serve it over egg noodles. Now, egg noodles have a little bit of sodium in them. I think about 15 grams in a cup. You can serve that over brown rice, which is steamed, so you don't need any salt at all. You can serve that over couscous, quinoa, yeah, just about anything. Pretty good stuff. So, this is one of our serving dishes, or our storage dishes. Holds 2 cups, so it'll hold a cup of noodles and a cup of stroganoff. And shake it like that just a little bit. Put it in the freezer. Put a date on it and put it in the freezer. Label it so you know what it is. and pull it out and microwave it when you want it for lunch. You've got 6 meals, one hot and ready when you get home from work, and the rest whenever you need it. And I'll put this off to the side. Yes, camera 2 is working again. That's good, because we're going to start our lamb stew. For our lamb stew, we need these 2 bowls. About 1/3 of a cup of flour. And I'll put half of that in there. Oh. On top of all that stuff I just put in the slow cooker, bay leaves. Not forget the bay leaves. Okay. This is not low sodium. This is not. Well, it's low calorie. 500 calories per meal is not bad at all. Salt and pepper. So since this isn't low sodium, we're going to put some salt and pepper on our beef. Or lamb. I keep calling it beef. I don't know what my deal is. Looks like beef. Does not taste like beef. This stuff is so yummy. If you guys have never cooked with lamb, you're missing. And it's so low fat. All the fat, very little marbling in lamb. All the fat's around the outside. And I've trimmed most of that off when I was cutting it into these pieces. So what we're doing here is getting the lamb covered in the flour. Every piece. And I only put half the flour in because this is only half the lamb. Need a little more flour. Okay. So to begin, I'm going to wash my hand because I just made glue. I've got the burner on. I'm going to turn it up to medium high. I'm going to put in 2 teaspoons of oil. I have oil. Here we go. 2 teaspoons of my avocado oil. 2 cups of chopped up onions. Onions are very heart healthy, guys. Give them a chance. This is a tablespoon of chopped fresh thyme. Right there. I'll show you how to chop the thyme. It goes on these stalks like wood. You're going to go up here till you feel it soft. And you're going to use everything above that. You only want the soft stuff. And then just chop it with a French knife. Put that in my onion. And I'm going to have about 1.5 teaspoons of chopped fresh rosemary. This is what rosemary looks like. It's very pretty. Very fragrant. The leaves come in bundles. So you're going to take one of these bundles off. You're going to cut it right here where you can see the bundle start. And when you have enough, you're going to chop it up with the same French knife. So, into our aromatics. This is all made in one pot. These bowls, because it's all made at the same time in your one pot. Get those onions all split out. This is a Sunday afternoon dish because you have to start this at lunch if you want it for dinner. It's 3 hours cooking time. I promise you it's worth it. Okay. Take my wetted onion and I'm going to put them in this bowl. And I'm going to put get all the onions out. They'll turn brown and burn. Get the pan hot again. I put in about 3 teaspoons of oil. And I'm going to put in the lamb that I have gotten all floury. And I'm going to get this nice and brown. And the flour is going to be perfectly. Besides getting nice brown coating on it. Okay, I was saying there's more than one reason for this flour on this lamb. It browns it nicely when it's in the pan, and it makes its own thickener for the soup. Okay, we got, oh, we might have enough flour after all. Look at that. You want pieces here? And let that sit while we toasty up our lamb over here. Now you see it all went in here in one big blob. But as it cooks and the juices come out, it'll start separating into about bite-sized pieces. I'll let those go for another few minutes. And we'll get this is the ingredient in Guinness. It is a can of Guinness. This calls for 2 cups of Guinness, which is 16 ounces by volume. This can is 14.9 ounces by volume. So, here is your decision of the day. You can pour the whole can in there, make up for it with a little extra beef broth, or you can pour it into a measuring cup, open a second can to get to exactly 2 cups, and drink the rest. Because it's Guinness. Okay, so that's looking done. I'll put that into our bowl. I'm moving over here so you can see how pretty this is. Nice dark edges, a few crispy bits, just the way you like it. Heat up our last 3 teaspoons of oil. And our last meat. And it is the flour and the juice from the meat, leaving this stuff on the bottom, right where we want it. So, it occurs to me I didn't go over the ingredients list for this. Past 2.5 pounds of beef lamb. Okay, 2.5 pounds of lamb, 2 cups of chopped onion, your tablespoon of chopped thyme, teaspoon and a half of chopped rosemary, your Guinness. This is 3 cups of beef broth. You want a tablespoon of tomato paste. Make sure your tomato paste contains tomatoes and nothing else. Citric acid maybe, but it's not necessary. It's a preservative that adds sodium. So if you have one that just has tomatoes, there's one at Fred Meyer, this brand right here. Our tomato paste contains tomato and nothing else, and there's no sodium. So, not bad. This isn't your low sodium dish, but you don't need all that. So, 2 cups of chopped carrots. This is a stew after all. 2 cups of chopped Yukon Gold potatoes. This is a Yukon Gold potato. It looks like butter when it's cooked. It mashes and has a very, very buttery texture. It's not too sticky, glutinous, that thing. Okay, a couple more minutes and we're ready. Our last ingredient is turnips. 2 cups, well, 8 ounces by weight, which is just shy of 2 cups, of turnips. This is a purple top turnip, kind you're used to. This is a small one, but it's about as big as you're going to need. When they get bigger, they start to get a little bit bitter. Turnips are related to radishes more than potatoes, and you can smell that when you're cutting them. Always peel your turnip. You get the nice white flesh. Cut it into your bite-sized bits. This dish does not freeze because turnips do not freeze. They freeze and then they turn gross. So don't, if you want to freeze this, if you want to make this ahead and freeze it, don't put the turnips in. When you reheat it to eat it, put a few turnips in or just skip them. But they do add a lot to the flavor. So we'll make this tonight, and this will be lunch for the rest of the week because it's pretty tasty. Make 7 servings. Okay, it's just about done over here. I'm going to turn this down real low, and I'm going to find... Yeah. Medicinal. Okay. It is time for the beer. Now, we're not going to leave this on low after we pour the beer in. No, but I'm so terrible with this beer. This is what you pour the beer. Okay. I'm going to turn that back up about medium. We want this to bubble. And we're going to stir and stir. We're going to get everything off of the bottom. All of that yummy crustiness that was put there by the flour and the lamb and the onions and the herbs. That's all going to get scraped up into this beer. And we're going to bring it to a boil. And we're going to leave it at a boil for about 5 minutes because we want to cook out half of this beer and make it a nice thick Guinness syrup. And then, I promise we're almost done, except for the long cooking time. There's not a ton of work. Mostly just the waiting. Turn that up a little bit to medium to get it to boil. Alcohol has a lower boiling point than water.
And boiled at a higher.
We want to get our crusties off before we get it too hot because we don't want those burning down there. We want those mixing into our Guinness syrup. They are tasty. And you can smell that chocolatey beer. So next week, while we're waiting for this, we've got a couple shows that we had planned to catch up on before we lost the computer. We've got a baking show, baking for people who think they can't bake. We're going to make Scotch shortbread, which is a beautiful, crumbly, tasty tea cookie. That is super easy to make and has about 5 ingredients or less. And we have lobster pappardelle. Pappardelle is a type of noodle. We found it where? We found it at Fred Meyer after looking everywhere. It's an egg noodle. It's how it's cut that makes it so special, apparently. And another low sodium freezable recipe, because I am actually freezing these and keeping them to take down to my grandma in Pasco to help her with her very low sodium diet. That's another thing about these storage containers is you get like 100 for 15 or 16 bucks with the lids. So it's not a great thing to give them away. And they're great for prep. And they come in different sizes. There's smaller ones for sauces, and there's bigger ones for people not on diets, or for salads. You've seen those salads in a jar? Those are perfect for those salads in a jar. All right, we're gonna let that cook down. And we'll go next steps. Next step, I get wrong every time. I'll go over here and read it. Guys, introduce you to my cookbook. I find a recipe I like, and I will pull it up on my phone. Now, if it's a hit and healthy and fits in here, this is my healthy cookbook. I will print it out and I'll put it in here, and I'll share it with you guys. So, we've got lots to go through. Next step, we're going to put the onion mixture and lamb back into the pan. Now, see, I'm going to put the lids back on these because these don't come in for an hour and 15 minutes. And that's after everything's in the pan. We don't want mushy vegetables. So we're going to put them in later. So, do need a tablespoon of this tomato paste and this stuff in the pan. I'm reducing nicely. So you want that to be down to 1 cup. You can eyeball a cup. About a cup and a half right now. We want our spoon to glide smoothly along the bottom of our pan because we've scraped everything up and incorporated it into that beer. All those flavors. Concentrated. 4 more minutes. Do we have viewers? Somebody ask a question?
Nobody's asked a question. We do have people watching.
Okay. If you guys have questions, just ask our moderator over here. He keeps saying,
Nothing moderate about me.
stay over there. The camera's dead.
Camera's not dead.
The camera is not dead.
It's the 6-year-old. And the lack of microphone on you.
For you who like it, we take contributions to help improve the show. We'd like to help to afford one more camera, a third camera. Of course, I'd have to clean the kitchen, and you only see it a little bit. And a microphone. Now, the microphones aren't that expensive. If at any point you want to help contribute to the food, give us a holler too. Alright, so that looks good. I'm going to put this in. And it's going to thin it down a little because you got all these juices in here from the lamb and the onion. You've had that hot lamb sitting on top of that onion. Okay. And now, I'm going to put a tablespoon of tomato paste on top of that. I have a tablespoon. Yes. Tomato paste adds a lot of tomato flavor and just a little bit of smokiness that goes so well with the Guinness. See, that's why he wants a microphone on me. I keep turning around. Alright, I'm going to stir that up. I'm going to let that, I'm going to turn up the heat, because it's time for the boiling. And this is the point what did I do with my broth? Alright, when the broth goes in, and the bay leaves. Gonna let that tomato paste get in there for a minute. This doesn't have garlic in it, and that's okay. Some people think it'd be better with garlic, and this is the place to add it if you want it. Alright, so we're going to put 3 cups of low sodium beef broth. You can get beef broth with no sodium. You can make your beef broth with no sodium, boiling a bone down. It does need a little bit for the flavor, I think. I've had no sodium beef broth. You end up adding salt. Alright, so we're going to bring that to a boil and put the bay leaves in. We'll bring that to a boil. And we're going to put a lid on that. And we're going to boil it for, well, simmer it. We're going to turn it down once we get the lid on it. Simmer it for 1 hour and 15 minutes. At the end of 1 hour and 15 minutes, we're going to put in all these vegetables. And then we're going to simmer it some more. Bring it back up to a bubble. Now, let's talk about what a simmer is. A simmer is not a boil. But it's not sitting there doing nothing either. It's bubbles. It bubbles slowly, blub, 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 has to simmer. So then we're going to put the vegetables in, and we're going to simmer it for an hour and a half more. At the end of that time, we're going to put in, put this on a back burner. Hold on. Get this back up to warm. That's what it looks like at the end of all that cooking. It doesn't usually have egg noodles in it. Anyway, so it looks like we're going to go through. We're going to pick out our bay leaves now. I think I got them. It's not that biting into a bay leaf will cause you any harm or do you anything except make a funny face because you're cooking up good. So if you don't find the bay leaf, I guess in some places it's lucky if you find one in your dish. Lucky you didn't chew on it because alright. Now we're going to put in, what did I just do with my tablespoon? 2 tablespoons of Dijon. It's right at the end. Now you don't need anything with this, but a little bit of soda bread would be really nice. Maybe a buttermilk biscuit. There we go. I might need some more Dijon. I'm going to stir that in until it's nice and incorporated. Jed doesn't like Dijon, but he didn't know this had it at first. It didn't say a thing. So it gets mixed in there nicely and it blends all those flavors. And there you have your beautiful pot of Guinness lamb stew. See how thick it has gotten? Just sitting there bubbling away with all that lamb, with all the flour coming out of it, mixing with the liquid. Be sure to stir this while it's simmering because you don't want it stuck to the bottom of the pan. You got to keep things rotating, bubbling to the surface. I'm going to turn that off because that's our show for tonight. So next time we have lobster pappardelle and a low sodium slow cooker recipe that can freeze, because my mission to help my grandma is to find things that can be made up real quick and real easy, dished out real quick, and freeze afterwards for the leftovers if you don't have too many people to feed. So that's our show tonight, and join us next week for that, and then we will go ahead and do the shortbread sometime after that, and then I think we'll be back on schedule. Tomorrow night we are doing a Gran and Tonic, which is our other channel, where my friend Darla and I are going to celebrate Cinco de Mayo with drinks that involve tequila and tonic. We're going to make a margarita bar, lime and tequila, kind of like a lemon bar, and we're going to make flower wreaths, tissue flower wreaths, because I don't know, tissue flowers are somehow required for a Cinco de Mayo celebration. So join us tomorrow night for that, and thank you for watching tonight.